So there was a article in Mother Jones about the 7 dodgy food practices that are banned in Europe, but they're just fine in America.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, I don't like, list articles, but I think this is cause for concern. So number 1 is atrazine. So why it's a problem.
I knew it was a problem the second you said that word.
It's a potent endocrine disruptor. Syngenta's popular corn herbicide has been linked to a range of reproductive problems at extremely low doses in both amphibians and humans, and it commonly leaches out of farm fields and into people's drinking water. So Europe banned it in 2003, but its status in the U.S., according to the EPA, is atrazine will begin registration review, EPA's periodic reevaluation program for existing pesticides, in mid-2013. So it's just coming up for review in the middle of this year.
Jesus. I would, just a quick little health fun fact that I like, because this reminded me of that. If you are trying to get healthy, which you should, a really good, I have a lot of problems with Michael Pollan, but 2 really nice, kind of like easy to remember rules that I really like that he said, are the first one is there shouldn't be any ingredients in your food that you can't pronounce. Like when you start to see weird stuff that looks like that, what Allie was just talking about, you probably don't want it. High fructose corn syrup, obviously you don't want, but when there's 50 ingredients and you're buying a cracker.
Well, remember, this is herbicide. So this is just what's sprayed on the
crops.
I
know. I'm just saying.
But unfortunately, that's actually really interesting because it would be cool if on food labels they also included, here's what herbicides were used in the production of these crops. But,
right.
You have no idea.
Right, exactly.
Because what Michael Pollan always says is he's like, eat whole foods, but he doesn't, maybe he does talk about this and I'm just not familiar with it, is even whole foods are treated with these kind of herbicides.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, that's obviously why it's weird. I actually feel more, comfortable telling people to go vegan than I do organic, because organic is legitimately expensive. You can go vegan.
And it also has a very loose definition, what qualifies as organic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can go vegan on the cheap. I went vegan when I was living out of a car with Allison. For sure. Organic definitely does, it definitely is more expensive. If you can afford it, it's obviously good because you can avoid shit like this. But, this article aside, new point, there should not be 50 ingredients in a cracker. It should be cracker. So that's always a good thing. You want it to be as little ingredients as possible. Bread's a really good example. If you look at Wonder Bread, you're like, what the fuck is all this stuff?
Well, it's funny. Rats won't eat Wonder Bread.
Right.
Because they know there's no nutrients in it.
But if you get good bread that you have to put in the freezer or the fridge or else it'll get moldy, it should be some form of wheat, maybe a little sea salt, some kind of yeast, and that's it.
So, number 2, arsenic in chicken, turkey, and pig feed.
Ugh.
Why it's a problem. Arsenic is beloved of industrial-scale livestock producers because it makes animals grow faster and turns their meat a rosy pink. It enters feed in organic form, which isn't harmful to humans. Trouble is, in animal guts, it quickly goes inorganic and thus becomes poisonous. Several studies, including one by the FDA, have found heightened levels of inorganic arsenic in supermarket chicken, and it also ends up in manure, where it can move into tap water. Fertilizing rice fields with arsenic-laced manure may be partially responsible for heightened arsenic levels in U.S. rice.
Yeah.
So what Europe did was, according to the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy, arsenic-based compounds were never approved as safe for animal feed in the European Union, Japan, and many other countries. But the U.S. status... The drug giant Pfizer voluntarily stopped marketing the arsenical feed additive Roxursone back in 2011, but there are still several arsenicals on the market. On May 1st, a coalition of enviro groups, including the Center for Food Safety, the Institute for Agricultural and Trade Policy, and the Center for Biological Diversity, filed a lawsuit demanding that the FDA ban them from feed.
Not to throw in my vegan propaganda again, but if you're reading...
Oh, that's all I was thinking when I was reading this article.
I know. If you're like reading something and it's blank maybe in your chicken guts, at what point are you like, maybe I don't need the chicken guts?
But here's what pisses me off about articles like this. It's not limited to like meat and stuff. It's like the fucked up things the meat industry does trickles down to my fucking rice.
I know.
And like whenever there's a salmonella outbreak and they're like, it's on the spinach, invariably it's because there was a fucking pig farm up the fucking road.
That's literally the last big scare is the cow shit went downhill and got on my fucking spinach. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm like, I'm vegan. I shouldn't be getting ill because you
can't keep your cow shit in one place.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, so this does really affect everybody, obviously. Are your chances of being healthier if you are vegan, is that still a valid point? Yes, of course. Because, if your cow shit isn't on my spinach, obviously there are way more cases of like, foodborne illnesses in meat, E. coli, all that stuff. But more importantly is you take your healthiest meat diet and you take your healthiest vegan diet. The healthiest vegan diet still cuts your chance of heart disease, most cancers, diabetes, all that shit in half.
I think the point is that we should all be in the fight together to make our food safer.
Yeah, because here's
like whether you're a vegan or not, everybody suffers the consequences of a underregulated food industry.
Yeah, well, I've never given advice to non-vegans besides go vegan because you're eating animals and I like little animals because they're sweet. But here's also my advice for you guys is we talk about the harm of free market privatization, all this stuff on the show, right? Where it's like, what's the goal of the free market? Well, you got to make as much money as possible. How do you make as much money as possible? Well, you cut costs and you try to produce as much as you feasibly can, every second, right? So the reason that your meat is so fucking disgusting and that there's cow shit in your burgers and that there's pus in your milk and the reason that these cows are given so many fucking antibiotics that their udders are the size of a small car and they have to be picked up and they can't even stand on their own legs. And it's just like pussing with disgusting stuff. The reason that, they have to put cows in rape racks, they actually call it the rape rack and have it, raped by these giant metal tubes so they can produce milk is because they want to, the reason that, factory farm workers have some of the highest injury rates and domestic violence rates and stuff like that is because they just want to pump out as much product as possible. And that should concern you. It's the same reason that a lot of our listeners don't shop at Walmart. It's the same reason that a lot of our listeners don't support the health insurance companies or don't support Blackwater. It's because when you privatize things...
Don't support Blackwater.
Well, yeah.
Don't answer their fundraising emails.
Yeah. It's Blackwater here, guys. It's that time of year. If you want a Blackwater tote bag...
there would be hipsters like, I do want a Blackwater tote bag.
It's really sad, though. It's just the head of a Muslim person they've killed, and then you put your money in their mouth.
Jamie.
Yeah, well, it's not my fault Blackwater kills people. So, but you don't support that, so why would you support factory farms, right? And now a lot of you write in, you say, well, I get my eggs from Jim, who lives in my basement with a chicken. And you're like, all right, whatever, that's fine. But most stuff that's labeled organic, most stuff that's labeled free range or whatever, is the same. They do the same terrible fucking things to animals. They keep these animals in the same horrid fucking living conditions because they have to compete with these factory farms. And more importantly than that, I don't give a fuck if you buy your eggs from Jim in your basement or from Sally who has the farm next door. 99% of food that you get at restaurants or in stores is factory farmed. So that means if you do get your eggs from the local person, you're still, unless you go vegan every time you go out to eat, you're still supporting these factory farms. And so animal rights aside, from a corporation level, I think you guys are better than that.
Yes, I agree.
And it's everything you stand for.
Number 3, poultry litter in cow feed.
God damn it.
Why it's a problem. You know how arsenic goes inorganic and thus poisonous in chickens' guts? Consider that their arsenic-laced manure is then commonly used as a feed for cows. According to Consumers Union, the stuff consists primarily of manure, feathers, spilled feed, and bedding material that accumulate on the floors of the buildings that house chickens and turkeys. The spilled feed part is of special concern because chickens are often fed meat and bone meal from dead cattle, CU reported. And that stuff can spill into the litter and be fed back to the cows, raising mad cow disease concerns. So Europe banned all forms of animal protein, including chicken litter in cow feed in 2001.
You're sponsored by Europe.
But in the U.S., the practice remains unrestricted. U.S. cattle consume about 2 billion pounds of it annually, Consumer Union's Michael Hansen told Mother Jones. So, yeah, obviously this is gross. But I always remember when Oprah tried to say on her show, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, because this was during like the height of the mad cow disease scare. And the fucking beef industry sued Oprah.
Yeah.
Which is like suing God.
It is suing.
And I really think that scared a lot of people, because like, you know, if you see that the beef industry is going to take down Oprah, it's like, oh man, what if like a smaller author tried to go after the beef industry?
Well, and it's not like Oprah said, it wasn't like
you guys
was,
shouldn't eat meat, but with the beef industry,
or it was like
saying,
libel, or anything. She wasn't saying anything that wasn't true.
but it is. There are laws on the books in the states that if it's considered like, yeah, it's slander against certain industries. If like Oprah says on television, I don't want to eat meat, the beef industry says, well, that's basically telling your viewers not to eat
Because you have
meat.
such a
And
big
you can
audience.
actually, the beef industry can sue people for saying shit like that.
This is why we can never get as big as Oprah. Which I don't think is going to be a problem.
It's not an issue. Don't worry. Number 4, chlorine washes for poultry carcasses. Why it's a problem? As the U.S. chicken industry has sped up kill lines in recent years, it has resorted to heavier use of chlorine-based washes to decrease microbial loads on carcasses.
This is what I was talking about, where it's like getting as much out as possible.
Exactly. So that was a report from the Washington Post, quoting a previously unreleased USDA document. As Mother Jones has noted, the USDA is preparing to release new rules that would speed up kill lines still more, as well as allow companies to douse every carcass that comes down the line with antimicrobial sprays, whether they are contaminated or not. According to the Post, poultry workers and the USDA inspectors attribute a range of ailments to the practice, including asthma and other severe respiratory problems, burns, rashes, irritated eyes, and sinus ulcers and other sinus problems. So Europe not only bans the practice, but refuses to accept U.S. poultry that has been treated with antimicrobial sprays. And of course, the U.S. is preparing to roll out new rules that will increase the practice. Yeah, and I mean, the list goes on, and I'll link to the full Mother Jones article in the episode recap. But this is what I mean about, like, regardless, you know, if you're a vegan, if you're a vegetarian, if you're a meat eater, this should concern everyone.
Well, and I mean, even if you are a vegan, it's like you have family members who eat this kind of meat.